Food Theory's 1-year YouTube anniversary is fast approaching, but here's a little secret, friends. Steph and I actually shot the first Food Theory episode 2 years ago. See, back in the summer of 2019, we made an episode about all-you-can-eat buffets, just to see if this whole wacky food theory thing had legs. Yes, that is me on a green screen sporting my pre-St. Jude livestream haircut. Our worry at the time was that it would be tough to make Food Theory episodes visually interesting. Game Theory gets to show a bunch of game footage and characters, Film Theory gets to show a bunch of TV and movie clips, but food just kind of sits there, you know? Like, I guess you could do an Italian theme to like a spaghetti or pizza episode, but really not a whole lot to go off of. But I do think it's safe to say that at this point our fantastic editors found a way to make it work in the traditional Theorist style. So green screen Matpat went the way of the dinosaur pretty much immediately, though legend has it that if you say his name 3 times into a mirror at 3 a.m., green screen Matpat will appear to you.
I am gonna make you regret those words.
So anyway, we made this episode back in 2019, then a year later in 2020, we launched this channel in the middle of a global pandemic. And since nobody was going to restaurants at the time, we decided maybe it wasn't the best idea to lead off with a buffet episode like we had planned. But now that buffets are opening back up from sea to shining sea, we're taking this opportunity to release the lost episode of Food Theory, what was supposed to be one of the first Food Theory episodes ever. So please enjoy this test pilot episode of Food Theory and admire just how far development of an idea can come, because boy howdy, this episode is a lot different from what the show eventually launched as. And as an added bonus, I'm also packaging in the rough, semi-incomplete first draft of the Food Theory intro. See if you can spot all 1 trillion things that we changed before we landed on the final polished version.
Internet, welcome to Food Theory, the show that stuffs you so full of knowledge you'll wish you were wearing sweatpants. And since this is YouTube, studies show that there's actually a 41% chance that you are wearing yourself a pair of these, so you are in good company, my friends. Today's topic is one that I take very seriously and that affects literally every single one of you out there watching right now. Now, I'm not talking about serious stuff like GMOs or superfoods that promise to make you live forever. No, the secrets that I'm sharing today will serve you much better than that. In fact, I hold the keys to the kingdom of the all-you-can-eat buffet. When I tell people that I love Vegas, they ask if it's because of all the cool casinos or the drink glasses that are literally the height of a 6-year-old. I tell them no, I love Vegas because it's the mecca of the all-you-can-eat meal. And after putting some serious study time across a lot of different buffets, I can tell you the single definitive scientific strategy for getting the absolute most out of any all-you-can-eat buffet you visit. Be it Golden Corral to my personal childhood favorite, Ponderosa. Rest in peace, there's only like 3 of you that exist. So today, consider this video your definitive guide to beating the house. If beating the house is you eating a lot at an all-you-can-eat restaurant. Do you want that fried chicken or you want the mashed potatoes? Do you want the spaghetti and meatballs or the mac and cheese? The cake or the pie? Today, the answer is E, all of the above. Today, we're exploring the very clear strategies to getting the most bang for your buck out of these sorts of restaurants, but also exploring some of the devious ways that the buffets themselves are trying to stop you from doing exactly that. Today, it is us versus them versus us. Honestly, because let's face it, if you're stuffing everything you possibly can into your gut every time you're going to one of these restaurants, you're punishing your own body just as much as you're punishing the restaurant. In fact, the restaurant doesn't feel it at all, but you're gonna feel it a whole heck of a lot. But that doesn't mean we don't still need to know those answers for science, for our wallets, and for our own damn pride. Now, to begin, we need to get back to basics. How businesses work and how in a world of all-you-can-eat buffets, they make any sort of money. Because in theory, they're literally offering you the option of like 25 different entrees. Well, the basic premise of a buffet, or really any restaurant, quite honestly, is that the food you eat has to cost less at the end of the day than the money you spent to get that meal. It's pretty basic economics, right? But a lot of buffets offer stuff that seem pretty darn pricey, like steaks and seafood, crab legs. So they also have to make sure that when you're getting full, you're not necessarily getting full on those items. So how can the buffets manipulate your stomach? Well, primarily they do that by manipulating your mind. Loosen up those belts by a few notches, ladies and gentlemen, and let's start by taking a look at the basic layout of your standard buffet. Bring up that highly scientific buffet infographic. It's a thing of beauty, ladies and gentlemen. Here's your typical buffet layout, where we'll be able to see in a second that there are a few different things going on here. The basics are that at the far ends of the buffet, typically where you'd start and end your meal, you're immediately confronted with a bunch of carbohydrates, starches. Here, actually, let's roll some footage of us taking a little visit to the local buffet establishment, and you can actually see how consistently this plays out. On one extreme of that buffet, you get pastas, you get macaroni, you get corn, and on the other extreme end, we're presented with a loaf of bread, a bunch of muffins, a bit of toast. So these are our capstone carbohydrates, which are put there intentionally for two specific reasons. One, they're cheap. They are the cheapest things to make on the menu. Bread and pasta can be made in massive quantities, they keep well for long periods of time, and it doesn't matter if the restaurant has to throw some of it away at the end of the day. It is not a big loss for them. Other things to look out for at the ends of the buffets are going to be the things like rice dishes, which you'll also see providing a buffer around some of the more expensive meat dishes. Like, for example, right here, where this beef stir fry is sandwiched between cheaper pot stickers on the left and fried rice on the right. To put the cost difference of starches versus other stuff into perspective, rice, 38 cents per pound. Corn, 43 cents per pound. Potatoes, 51 cents per pound, all pretty darn inexpensive. Even if you somehow manage to eat 5 pounds of this stuff during your all-you-can-eat trip, that buffet is still gonna make a great profit margin off of your dollars. By comparison though, the lowest price of wholesale beef, $2.80 per pound in 2019. So if you're eating pounds of steak, you're starting to cost the restaurant a whole heck of a lot more. And as an added bonus, carbs tend to take up a lot of room in your stomach and also on your plate. They're light, they're fluffy, they're absorbent, which means that they are delicious, but it also means that they're gonna act like a spongy material in your stomach, expanding and making you feel full, sleepy, and like it's maybe not worth it to go back for a fourth helping of that hand-sliced kielbasa. For evidence of why this strategy helps buffets, I direct your attention to the satiety index, an actual index of the relative satisfaction and fullness that various foods make you feel. It's honestly worth doing a whole episode on this thing in particular because it can really help you with stuff like losing weight. But today, there are a couple takeaways from looking at this thing. In measuring all kinds of foods from all kinds of food categories, including desserts, veggies, different types of bread, etc., the developers of this satiety index actually concluded a few interesting things, like that oranges are more satisfying than bananas, strangely enough, but also that the foods that make you feel most satisfied are carbohydrates. So, by giving you lots of bread right up front, the buffet is actually already signaling to your body to tell it, end this meal, you have had enough. Stop right there. Shut your mouth hole, shut it down. On top of all of that, which is already a lot, those rolls, potatoes, huge mounds of rice jambalaya, they're all taking up huge amounts of space on your plate, meaning that you have less room for all the other stuff, the good stuff, the higher quality, more expensive stuff when you arrive to it. All of this leads to the first major rule of maximizing your buffet experience. Rule number 1, skip the bread. Skip the bread entirely. Don't be pulled in by the pasta and say, piss off to those potatoes. We are beelining it to the carving station, my friend. Which, actually, incidentally, is where buffets are imposing their second major mind game on you, portion control. It's not enough to just hide the expensive products on the buffet, and if you've been to a Vegas buffet, you'll know that a lot of times the good stuff is practically hidden in a back alley behind the casino. But when you do eventually find that expensive cut of meat or provide the secret password to receive your king crab legs, it's still not usually you who gets to decide how much is going on your plate. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where the manned carving station comes into play, where the expensive meat is usually doled out in a much more reasonable portion than the slab of beef that most of us would like to serve ourselves on that plate. Excuse me, sir, what meats do you have on the buffet today? New York strip, ribeye, skirt steak? I'll take all of them. Then they give you a little portion and then you're like, please sir, I'd like some more. It's like a modern day Oliver. And that, ladies and gentlemen, acting. The The number one protein item that you're likely to find in your buffet line is chicken, because quite frankly, it's the cheapest, 89 cents a pound. And beyond chicken, they usually don't trust you to serve yourself. The carving station is this place usually manned by a tall, imposing guy who's essentially the bouncer of the meat. Well, he's there to serve you as much as you'd like, in theory, and thereby give you this premium eating experience. Oh, look, someone's carving my meat for me. What he's really there to do is, one, control the size of the portion you're being served so that you can't eat a whole prime rib by yourself, or even worse, waste that prime rib, take too much and then end up throwing it away. And two, every time you want to get another helping of roast beast, you have to ask a human being to give it to you. Going up for seconds? Hey, it's a buffet, do your thing. Going up for fifths? Now your brain's telling you that the meat bouncer is judging you for your gluttony. Internally, he's like, well, look who's back. You want another serving? There are people dying of hunger all over the world, but sure, you just cramming that fatback bacon down your gullet. No problem. And so instead of asking for more like you want, you instead slink away and mumble that you'll just top up with another one of those yeast rolls. In this way, the buffet can still give you the illusion of luxury items as being all you can eat, but serving you the most expensive things in small, controlled portions. Another way that buffets do this is by serving you things on pre-portioned plates, which either take up a ton of room on your existing plate, or you have to dedicate a whole hand to holding that plate. In this way, they keep your portions small and ensure that you can only pick up like 1, 2, maybe max 4 of these items every time you return to the buffet. The last manipulation along these lines that's happening right there on the buffet line is literally from the second you start, the plate you pick up. Plates and bowls at all-you-can-eat buffets tend to be smaller than the plates that you get at other restaurants. Now, while we might initially think that this wouldn't make a difference, since, I can get as many plates as I want, that's actually not the case. According to one study, simply giving subjects a larger bowl for their ice cream led to them serving themselves and consuming 31% more ice cream than those who were given a smaller bowl. And those that were given larger serving spoons ate 15% more. For proof of this principle in action, think about all those self-serve frozen yogurt places that are all the rage these days. My favorite is Yogurtland, where I am, no joke, a platinum card-carrying member since 2013, in fact. But when I go in, I know that the bowl sizes that they give out are enormous. They're designed to trick me into thinking that I have to fill them up. Otherwise, why did I go there if I just got a little swirl in the bottom? Then you get to the end of the line and suddenly you're paying by the weight of the yogurt in your cup, and the whole idea is that you just realized, oh wait, I served myself literally 12 pounds of yogurt. This is like a $50 bowl of ice cream. But hey, you know what? It's healthy, cause it's yogurt. It's not. Anyway, in the same way that Yogurtland wants me to buy like 700 ounces of yogurt and hot fudge in one sitting, which is how I got to be a platinum card member in the first place, the buffet actually wants to trick me into doing the exact opposite. They give you smaller plates, they give you smaller bowls, even smaller silverware sometimes, in an effort to get you to put less on your plate and thereby eat less. This should make sense if you've ever tried this trick on a diet, where one of the most well-known tips is to put your food on smaller plates. Average dinner plates sold in stores here in the US are around 12 inches today, but buffets tend to use plates that are in the 9 to 10 inch range, a little smaller than average in the US and enough to take our plate area from 113 to 78 square inches, meaning that you have over 20% less space for the food you want to put on that thing. That real life buffet example that we went to, plates 9, 10 inches, boom, right on target. Research in real life for the win. Additionally, every time you have to get up and go back to the buffet, you have to overcome some social stigma of getting more food, which, even if that exists in your head, you imagine that the people around you, that your server, that everyone will notice, that they'll start judging you for it. So the takeaway of all these psychological mind games, first, know that they're mind games that aren't accidentally there. They are intentionally placed between you and that 6th helping of spiral cut ham. Once you recognize that you're playing a game, Release that shame, ladies and gentlemen. Make friends with that meat bouncer and play like a champ. When you go up for helpings 2 and 3, mention casually that you're an ultra marathon runner. The last pro tip for becoming the ultimate master of the buffet is that to perform well, you need to prepare well. Like the professional bikers of the world train for the Tour de France, so shall you prepare your body for the Tour de Fried Chicken at the Golden Corral. At the end of the day, the biggest thing that's standing in our way at buffets isn't the psychological tricks or the peer pressure or heck, not even the meat bouncer. It's our own bodies. You may not consider buffet eating as a personal challenge, and to be quite honest, that's probably a good idea for you in the long run. But again, this whole episode is about optimizing our experience, making the restaurant hurt because you ate your meal there. And so that means you gotta go all the way. You know that feeling at a buffet where your stomach is like, hey guys, we can probably stop now. And then you go up for 2 more plates and then it's like, hey, we really need to stop eating now. And then after like another 2 bowls of ice cream, it's like, nope, shut it down. Well, all of those feelings are coming as the result of a hormone called leptin. That's leptin working on your body. Leptin is released when your body has all the energy that it needs and is like, yeah, we're pretty good down here. Tell the mouth to shut up. On the other hand, there's another hormone that tells you that you're really hungry and can definitely make it through another 2 slices of pie, and that hormone is called ghrelin, otherwise known as the hunger hormone. This is kind of an oversimplified version of the system, but the basic principle going into a buffet will be like, you want your ghrelin to be really high and you want your leptin to be really low, which is basically the fast track to overeating town. So, Captain Obvious alert, you shouldn't go to an all-you-can-eat buffet with a full stomach. Obviously. But there are actually a few other things that you can do to induce ghrelin production. One study found that subjects who are given carbonated beverages about an hour after a light breakfast produced ghrelin at a rate 4 to 5 times that of people who just drank water. And it wasn't sugary sodas that spiked ghrelin production the most. It was actually unflavored carbonated water. So all of this gives us strategy number 1, an hour before your buffet experience, chug yourself some seltzer water. Make sure that those ghrelin levels are as high as possible. And then of course, we're trying to make our appetite raging. So we should probably crush ourselves a few hours on the Stairmaster, right? Make ourselves even hungrier. No. Actually, that's not right at all. Research shows that moderate exercise has little effect on ghrelin production in the body, but strangely enough, longer aerobic workouts with higher intensity actually lead to decreases in ghrelin production, even when you compare it to control groups who weren't exercising at all. Therefore, strategy number 2, lay around like a slug before you go to the all-you-can-eat buffet. Just sit there chugging your seltzer water and only eat a little. You're set, man. Maybe I should rename this as the General Guide to Getting Diabetes. Last, when it comes to delaying the onset of leptin, remember that a buffet is a marathon and not a sprint. Sure, you might come in as ravenous as a hungry raccoon, but after 2 plates of that pork fried rice, you're down for the count. So to keep your leptin levels low, remember, stick to the plan of low-carb eating. At least at the very beginning. Because again, those are the foods that are gonna fill you up the fastest. Leave those carbs for the end of the meal where they belong. Stuff like a Monster Brownie ice cream sundae, that all-important chocolate fountain. Same thing goes with sugary drinks. Skip those and stick to water, because it's not gonna affect your ghrelin levels as significantly as anything with sweetener. And lastly, while you're doing all of this, eating of beef while you're drinking your water, which sounds just like a terrible meal, but you know what? You are that determined to get your money's worth out of this buffet. Also make sure that you don't pay attention to what you're eating while you're eating it. That's right, people who are distracted while they eat, whether it's multitasking or watching a television show or whatever, they all tend to consume more than those whose brains aren't otherwise occupied. So bring yourself a crossword puzzle, paint watercolors in one hand while you crush some taquitos in the other. Or heck, watch this video to remind yourself why you're there. Not to enjoy yourself a nice meal, but to send as much of the high-ticket items down your digestive system as possible. To stick it to whoever charged you $50 for that Bacchanal buffet. And with that, you have done it, my friends. You are now the master of the buffet. So that said, you now know all the secrets to take on the world of buffets. Go forth and use those powers wisely. No one likes an upset tummy. So remember, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit.
Hey friends, 2021 Matpat checking in. Hope you enjoyed the whole walk down memory lane, but also brand new content thing that we tried out today. But above all else, I hope you enjoyed my green screen acting. Also, can I just say, as I rewatched this episode 2 years from when we first produced it, the cringy thing that stuck out to me the most was how I literally had a pair of sweatpants slung over my shoulder for like 2 minutes at the top of this episode. Like, I mentioned sweatpants once in passing as a joke, so I don't know, let me just introduce sweatpants as a practical prop that needs to stay on screen for the entire intro. And then I decided not to get an actual key and instead made the editor's motion track a JPEG into my hand. And then later I held a practical plate in my hands but needed a motion tracked meatball to go on that plate. Like, what is green screen Matpat's relationship with his environment? What is real in the food theory universe and what isn't? I don't know what to tell you folks, 2019 was apparently a weird time for me. Point is, July 23rd is Food Theory's official 1-year anniversary, and I'd like to take this opportunity to, one, remind you that if you want to celebrate along with us, Food Theory merch is available right below this video, including that amazing apron as well as that adorable pizza plushie inspired by my childhood. Only available for a limited amount of time, so make sure you get those before supplies are gone. And also to thank you all for watching for the last year and for giving feedback. If the tone and style of today's episode struck you as a bit wonky, well, that's because it was made before we had the benefit of your input, which has really helped us craft this channel over the past year into what it is now. So please keep those comments coming. I know us YouTubers tend to joke about like, oh, don't go into the comments and things like that, but really, we're one of those channels that really take the feedback to heart. So thank you from me, Steph, and the whole Food Theory team. It has been a great year, and we're looking forward to serving up plenty more. Now, as your second course, I'd recommend watching the food optimization episode that wound up replacing this episode when we launched the channel. We found out which fast food French fry order gets you the most deliciousness for your dollar. Thanks again for watching. Get your dollar's worth at the next buffet you go to, and make sure you listen to your parents, kids, because if you don't, green screen Matpat will come for you in the night holding a JPEG of a knife.